He is a renowned news anchor cum reporter, having worked in the media industry for more than 5 years. Who am I talking about?
Police spokesperson Charles Owino has said the police have no apologies for shooting the demonstrators.
So Trevor, at what point did you discover your passion for journalism, and how has been the journey so far?
Thanks for having me, Sylvia. This was way back in 2002, and I wasn't even the one who realized that I had that passion, so to speak. It was a talent that was identified by my high school teacher, and he just came up to me and told me, you have a good voice and you should think of doing radio. At that point, I had no idea what journalism was all about because I'm born and bred in the village, contrary to popular belief. So that's the point where I now started listening to different radio stations and thought maybe I might actually do this. A few people here saw the talent that I had, and then they invited me to the city way after Form 4. That was way back in 2004, and yes, I am one of your ancestors. So as soon as that was done, then I started working on it. Going to school, joined University of Nairobi, did a couple of casual labor jobs here and there, and then got through to the journalism school at the University of Nairobi. At that point, then I figured I could actually pursue journalism. And that is how it metamorphosized, and things, to cut the long story short, I ended up on radio.
So having worked in radio before, how was the transition being now you're on screen and people get to see you and get to know who Trevor is?
Intense. People are different out there. Some of them expect certain things when they hear you, and they expect you look a certain way. So when you show up on TV, there are those who will air their disappointments, there are those who will air their happiness, and you will be able to see all that. One of the craziest things about transition from radio to TV is that now I had to put on makeup. I never even knew. It made me feel very weird from the onset. But also, people have different opinions because when they hear you and when they see you, I don't know, it's something the human beings do. They believe that if you sound a particular way, then you also have to look a particular way.
So what job or event represent the epitome of your career so far?
That is yet to come, though. I think I cannot pinpoint one particular event that I'd say this is the best of my journalism career, but I'd pinpoint one story that I did in Wajir last year. It was called Hope in Pain. There was this young girl whose mother was suffering from an unknown disease, and the people in that area thought that she had been bewitched or she was possessed. And this young girl had to drop out of school to take care of her mother. After we aired that story, there are some doctors who visited that area and tried to treat the mother, and the girl was taken back to school. Such like stories is what I believe is what a journalist should be looking up to. And also, I was a runners-up in the BBC World News Komla Dumo Award, which is quite a good thing. I applied for about 4 or 5 times. I'm going to apply again this time. So hopefully this time I'll get it.
In your own opinion, are there specific requirements for people to be journalists, maybe in terms of voice, looks, and presentation skills as well?
I used to think so, but I no longer think so at this particular point, because it's really about passion and what drives you and why you actually want to become a journalist. There's a lot of different journalists right now. People can go online, there are bloggers, there are vloggers, all sorts of journalism, entrepreneurship, and all those things come together under one particular name, journalists. Yeah. So I don't think there are any specific characteristics or traits you need. It's just the drive, and you must ask yourself the fundamental question: why exactly do you want to be a journalist? What difference do you want to make?
As a journalist, how do you deal with the limelight?
One day at a time, I gotta say, because the thing is, like I mentioned, some people have your best interest at heart, others don't. And also, people do not know how far something is your fault. There's a story that could air on your station. People believe you had everything to do with it. Sometimes people decide to take the narrative of the government or of the opposition, especially during the political season. That's where it's really hard to decide where you stand, because the limelight makes people think that you know something more than you're telling them. So they demand more answers from you. And also, you can almost never really be yourself, because people believe that since you're on TV, you're supposed to be on a particular level of lifestyle. You cannot just jump on a motorbike left, right, and center and walk with torn slippers if you like. You cannot just be yourself. You always have to have that, what they call the public image. Even if you're having a bad day, sometimes when somebody stops you and says hi, you have to stop and say hi. Sometimes you read things about yourself and you're wondering, wait a minute, is that me they're talking about? So they know a version of you that is not the real you. Then there's expectations. Everyone believes because you're now talking to different people here and there. You find people from your village calling you, telling you, you know what, we need you to give us jobs. I saw you talking to the governor the other day, and you're wondering, first of all, we're not exactly friends. We're just people who do the same job. So we happen to give them a platform to speak. It doesn't mean you can influence them. Then there's also the expectations from the people. They believe that you're on TV, you're probably rich. So you'll be called for fundraisers and things like that if you don't show up, and people believe you owe them. So they'll call you left, right and center. If you don't pick, they start saying that you're becoming a snob. It's a tricky balance, I have to say. Yeah, but all in all, it's a good thing. Most people are actually very friendly. People would actually give you a lot of support. There are several people who would walk up to you and tell you, we are happy with what you're doing. Keep going, because they too can tell that you're under a lot of pressure and you're under a lot of scrutiny. When you're going head to head with some people who don't like you on social media, others can tell, and they sometimes take your side. So when they walk up to you one day, they'll just tell you, listen, we know you're doing a great job, keep doing it. And that is where now the difference comes in. So it's a balance of both negative and positive energy. So you're just somewhere in the middle there.
Being a journalist can be quite demanding. What actually motivates you to be always on the move?
The power of making people feel included and being the voice of the voiceless always keeps me motivated, because then you know you can speak on their behalf. Certain things they would like to be done, they'd have to air their opinion through you as well, and that would change the direction of policy and also make people sort of get what they call justice in one way or another. Contrary to popular belief, all the things we report about in terms of politics and all that, they do not have as much impact as people think. The real stories are stories like when a woman is forced to give birth on the floor of a hospital because of pure negligence, and then now, in as much as you cannot compensate that woman, but some level of justice is done. That is where real stories start impacting the people directly, and that is what keeps me moving.
If you're given a chance to be or to choose another career, would you still choose journalism?
It's an interesting question. I think I would. Yeah, mostly because of the inspirational stories that I've seen. And it's not just me. Several journalists have been able to do what we call earth-shaking stories. Things that change the direction of governments, and things that change policies, and things that make people reach out to other people. It's interesting that it's the same journalists who marshaled everybody else for the good of the country itself. And also there were accusations that it's the journalists who also divided the country. Having known that there's that power in journalism, you have to pick which side you want to be. Do you want to grow humanity and mankind, or do you want to put them at conflicts and at loggerheads? That is essentially your own decision. So yeah, I think I would still do what I do and hope one day things will change the direction of the world, you know what they say?
Being in an era where there's fake news and social media updating people before you guys, how do you cope with that?
Going through fake news has been one of the biggest challenges for all journalists across the board, because things come up and you think they're real, but you have to background and research them as much as you can. We have mechanisms in the newsroom where it's not just one person who does the research. If you find something that you think is a bit off, you can always run it by your editors. And also, Google is your friend. If there's an image that comes out of somewhere, people saying this happened the last night, you can reverse search it and you can see this image was used way back in 1997 and things like that. But the most important thing has always been, whatever you see out there, do not run to publish it. Take time to verify. That is the one thing that the newsrooms are dealing with currently as we speak. And then there's also the notion of everyone being a journalist. They see something and they put it out there. So by the time you're going on air, people already know what happened. So the question is, what more are you telling them? What kind of context are you going to give them? And by the way, when you're giving them the context, you also have to remember people's attention span is getting lower and shorter every single day. So you have to do all that in a very limited period of time. Otherwise, you lose your viewers and your listeners as well.
And as we wrap up, what advice would you give the young people who are aspiring to be journalists like you?
It always sounds like cliche, but it is not. Believe me, I know for sure that it is not. Follow your passion, number one. Get to know what you really want to do. Number two, do not have weird expectations. Always know that you will get through journalism. It's not an easy thing. It will beat you down. There will be blood, sometimes even sweat. And you just can't stop. You have to know why you're doing what you're doing. And I hope, for God's sake, it is not because you want to be known out there, because that is not motivation enough. question is, why are you joining the journalism industry? What do you want to do? The moment you decide that, you keep pushing. Every day, all day, and twice on Sunday.
So thanks for making time here for us. That has been a renowned journalist, and for the aspiring journalists out there, I hope you have been inspired. My name is SYLVIA.